Hello, it is a sticky day in northern New Jersey. Temperatures in the mid-70s, but humidity in the mid-80s. As we take an inside look at training camp presented by Quest Diagnostics. I'm Paul Dottino, he's Super Bowl champion tight end Howard Cross. Glad you could join us as we continue our coverage of Giants practice. Now, Howard, today it's going to be a bit of a light one. Shirts and shorts with helmets only. Of course, the Giants had given their players yesterday off. This comes off what they did on Friday when it was a scrimmage situation and a lot of contact.
Well, a lot of contact, but perfect day to scrimmage. The weather was super nice. I think it may have broke 80, but wasn't hot at all. So you want to be, getting your best work in the conditions that can get the most out of your players. You don't want guys being exhausted or heat exhaustion. You want them to be at full tempo, and that's a great day for it.
Well, let's build off that conditioning point for just a second. Is it better to have hot temperatures that are way up on the thermometer, or is it better to have high humidity?
It's that dry heat conversation. Look, hot is hot. I think when you're humid, though, the humidity causes you to sweat a lot more. So that's the problem that the players are going to have, is trying to stay hydrated in these circumstances. When you're sweating that much, you can pump them with full of Gatorade, you can give them a lot of water. You just have to be worried if you're going to have to start giving them IVs, but it's nothing you can do. You're sweating.
Howard, the fans have voted, and they told us that today they wanted us to concentrate on the offensive line. And you get a look at those big hog mollies right there. Of course, the offense always wearing blue, the defense always wearing white. And Howard, when you talk about these linemen, I remember David Deal telling me one time that during these kind of training camp practices, you might lose up to 11 pounds.
You could lose more than that. I think I had a summer when we were in Fairleigh Dickinson. I think I lost 22 pounds. So you can have a bad afternoon if you're working really hard, even in what we call shorts and shells, or in this case, shorts and helmets. The helmet is catching most of your heat. It's causing you to sweat. You don't realize it, so you have to keep drinking water.
You had a good opportunity there to look at Mark Colombo, the Giants' first-year offensive line coach. We've talked a lot about him. Howard, from your perspective, you played tight end, and that's an extension of the offensive line. How valuable is it to have a guy who has played the position before, specifically with the blocking techniques, to be able to show his players like you just saw?
It's awesome when you have guys that can actually teach you from the standpoint of physically getting in a position, so you don't have to think about it or trying to figure it out. You can actually physically see it. There's no imagination at that point. Now you just got to do what you're told, because you actually can see what's happening. When coaches, like guys with bad knees like me, it would be hard to get down in those positions, so you're trying to instruct and beg a guy and trying to train him to get there.
Coach Colombo played several years for the Chicago Bears, was hurt when he came out of Boston College, then wound up as a right tackle when Bill Parcells resuscitated his career with the Dallas Cowboys. And then when Bill was a front office executive in Miami, Colombo went over there and played for another year. And now, of course, he is with the Giants, coming over with Jason Garrett. And I think one of the things, Howard, that I find to be very important, and you tell me as a guy who had to block an awful lot when you played, he stresses the mentality and the philosophy and the attitude even before the technique.
Well, you have to think about it like when an offensive player is an aggressor who is supposed to be moving forward. But we think mostly that defensive guys are like that. Offensive linemen are supposed to be the guys that are attacking, they're downfield, they're running right at you, they're attacking you. But we always think of that as the pass rusher. If he's talking to them in that way, he's basically trying to get their mindset of, that's what the word offense means. We attack. So if you're attacking, if you have the attacking mentality, even when you're sitting back in pass protection, the punch with the hands is like the punch of a boxer. You're attacking all the time. It changes your mindset. And when the guy across from you is looking at you, he knows you're thinking that way.
Now, the drills they're going through here now, you see Daniel Jones huddling up with his offense, the defense on the other side of the line of scrimmage. I'm assuming this is all about the line calls and picking up the protections and the scheme?
When they do drills in full line, it's either an offensive period or a defensive period. You know more about it during the season, but now what you're seeing is guys taking their sets. The defensive guys are trying to get to their sides, so you're playing half a man a lot of times, get to your side. You're not forcing the line of scrimmage. The offensive lineman should be in great form with his hands in the right place. The defensive lineman should be in great form with his hands in the right place. And you'll see the receivers kind of coasting into the routes and the DBs coasting into their coverage. The quarterback should identify the coverage immediately, let the ball go. If it's a running play, you identify the hole immediately. He jogs through the hole. So it's a good drill.
We're getting a look at the starting offensive line here now with Daniel Jones at quarterback. How long will it take for the offensive line and the quarterback, being that this O-line has been a bit reconstructed, to get on the same page, recognizing all of the calls, recognizing all of the pre-snap keys that they need to do so that there are no miscommunications? Because we both know a miscommunication between the quarterback and the line usually results in a sack.
Well, you got a different circumstance. You got a whole different time. Like every team's dealing with this right now. No OTAs, no mini camps, none of all that stuff's going on. Meetings are on Zoom when you're having them, so you have to do a lot of stuff mentally. The actual footwork, it just takes time to see, how your guys move, where they're going to be when they make contact, the double teams, the switches. You just got to know. It takes time, but every team's dealing with it. I can't tell you from the standpoint, because this is like they just started, because they basically just started together. Like these guys, some of these guys hadn't even met each other before, they started in camp because they just couldn't.
My goodness, you get a look at Levine Toilolo, and these are the tight ends now, Howard. This is your position. And the Giants certainly have a bunch of guys right now who can all do a little bit of a different thing behind Engram. Okay. Ingram's the guy who is supposed to be able to do everything, but all the other guys have certain specific skill sets. They're almost like role players, although Caden Smith showed that he could do a little bit of everything during the latter part of last season.
Well, if you look back at the Patriots offense over the last few years, you know that Gronkowski was a powerful blocking tight end who was an incredible receiver. Now, you got an incredible receiver in Engram, but he's got to get bigger and stronger, and I don't know if he will do that. He may stay the size he is for the rest of his career. So you got other guys, Tyler and the other guys are big, strong guys to block. The problem with this is that they're going to have to be two-way players, because if they're not, if you only put a guy in the block, then they know they're either going to win a run or the ball's not coming to them. You want guys that are double threats. Ingram's going to get some more blocks. I think he's going to be able to be effective on the edge. The backside of plays or where they go. The Cowboys had a great tight end, Jay Novacek, went to the Pro Bowl every year. Backside blocker. Emmett's running all over the field. Jay was never the focus of any blocks. So it's a lot of ways to get around it. So you got a lot of great guys out there that can get it done.
You saw moments ago number 85, Levine Toilolo. Now, he had several years with the Atlanta Falcons before later having a cup of coffee with San Francisco. The Giants picked him up as a free agent during the offseason. Guy goes like 270 pounds, 6'8", known as a blocker. Howard, this is a guy who back in 2014, because of a shortage of offensive linemen on game day, the Falcons actually played him at right tackle in a game against the Minnesota Vikings. That's
the kind of blocker you're kind of looking for. But, the good thing about a guy like this, if he can run the short outs, the quick stops, or even got some speed and get it up the field as a decoy every once in a while, he can make a big difference in your offense. You're looking at a guy. If he's on the backside of a play and he checks out late, you can dump him the ball. You just got to make him a target to make the defense aware of him, so that you can't say, okay, Saquon's getting the ball because 85's in the game.
How much do you think the Giants are going to use double tight end sets? We know that the Cowboys, over the course of Jason Garrett's career, used plenty of those, and I think the suspicion is that he'll lean on that as well here.
Well, the tight end for years that there was Witten. So Witten was the focal point. The other guy was always the fast guy. Whoever it was in Witten's career, he was the quote-unquote receiver. Even though Witten was catching like 80 passes a season, the other guy was the down-the-field threat. So I think they're going to use double tight ends, because for the last few years, Zeke Elliott You had some other backs before that. You could see them trying to focus on running the ball and getting the ball to the back. So that's why I was asking earlier off camera, what kind of game plan have you seen? Have you seen a lot of drop backs? Have you seen a lot of play action? What are we looking at? Because there's been a big mixture of both. And depending on the quality of the running back, and we know we got a good one, that's when you know what kind of they're going to build the offense around.
Well, in terms of experience and playing time, we know that behind Engram, you've got Caden Smith and you've got Toilolo, who have seen the most NFL games of the other guys on the depth chart. But Eric Tomlinson is back again, had a cup of coffee with the Giants last season.
Yep.
After he was released, he actually went to New England for a couple of games,
yep.
which, by the way, is where he met Joe Judge.
Yeah.
Okay, should we not ignore that factor? And Garrett Dickerson is also back. He's been a blocker primarily in his limited time with the Giants the last couple of seasons. And then there's an interesting guy named Ryson John, who is a big 6'7" receiver from Canada, played at Division II Simon Fraser, and he is now working out as a tight end in Giants camp.
Okay, so we'll think about this. You got all these guys. The great thing about this training camp, as opposed to many others, they're going to get some actual action. There's a lot more plays. There's a lot more contact in practice. There's a lot more of football, like they say in the old days, that's going to go on. So they're going to get some chances. Now, you're going to give Engram a lot of chances, but it's got to be like it was when I came in. It was Bavaro and Moat. You got to beg for your chance. Anytime they call run on the field, try to make your move.
You had a blocking tight end named Bob Morosco who helped you guys out winning that Super Bowl against the Buffalo Bills.
Bob was another guy trying to get those reps. When it was Bavaro and myself, that year we're going to the Super Bowl. We got the third tight end. Morosco caught a lot of passes that season.
Well, let's go back to taking a look at the tight ends. And Howard, I got to go and ask you about someone near and dear to your heart because he's an Alabama guy. That is tight ends coach Freddie Kitchens. Got about 20 years of coaching experience under his belt, but a guy who was so well respected around football.
Yeah, you know, Freddie does a good job. Got a chance to be head coach for a hot second there, but didn't quite work out for him. But a guy who's been hanging around the ball with the tight ends, the offensive line. I may even cover backs one time. And what you get with a guy that's been a quarterback in college is you get a guy that's, like I tell people all the time, if you want to develop as a coach, you need to coach the offensive line, the running backs, the D line, the linebackers, and then stay in the middle of the field. You need to be able to see everything. Receivers, they can see the edge, but a guy that sees the whole field is helpful to them. And it's what you're watching now. You're watching these guys release, and he's telling them what to look through. So they're looking through the guy that's in front of them to the guy that maybe cover them on the back. So he's helping them with the release.
What was your favorite move in trying to get off the line of scrimmage, and are these guys apt to be doing it?
They're doing 2 steps out and then swipe to go inside. It's almost a swim or a rib technique. At different time, different era, we were running the ball so much that when I tried to go out for a pass, guys were attacking me thinking I was blocking them. So I was like having to battle through them to get down the field to start my route. If you brought another tight end, and we had some guys that were designated receivers, they wouldn't even touch them. I'm like, how does this guy get off the ball? But it's because of what you're good at. They defend themselves against what you're good at.
I think it's very noticeable when you look at this tight end group, and of course number 88 is Evan Engram. He looks like he may be in the best shape of his career. Now, I want to give you a couple of numbers as we watch the rest of the tight ends also go through these drills. Engram has played in 34 of a possible 48 games since he came into the league, having to fight through a number of injuries. But since the 2017 season when he became a Giant, Howard, he is in the top 7 of the NFL amongst tight ends in receptions, receiving yardage, and yardage per game. When he's on the field, he is so productive.
Hey, when he's on the field, he's so productive. I mean, the kid is dynamic. He's fast. He's got good hands. He's running great routes. He's basically a hybrid. He's not just a tight end. He could be a receiver. If they needed him, if we went down on receivers one year, he kind of played the slot and played outside also. So he has that kind of speed. He's that talented running routes. You need that guy to be on the field and be healthy.
One of the things we also heard about Engram is that Joe Judge loves to watch him practice. He says that sometimes he'll go out and whisper to Engram, "Don't let me down today because I just love watching you go out there." And the truth of the matter is, from an athleticism perspective, Engram has everything you could ever want in a player.
Yeah.
And I understand why the coach would enjoy watching him.
Well, you know, it's great to watch great guys run, athletic guys do their thing, but it's better to watch them play. So in Judge's mind, and don't know Judge's mind, but if it was my mind, I'm pressing him to go a little harder, to push a little further, to get a little more out of himself, because practice is supposed to make the game easier, and not the game easier because, oh, I know what to do, but the game easier because I put so much effort in practice that the game should be almost a letdown because okay, well, these guys aren't moving as fast as we did in practice.
Get a look at Eric Tomlinson, number 83. We addressed him before.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Him clapping for the ball like that. Well, if there's no fans in the stands, that could be hurt.
And so now we will actually see a pat and throw drill by the quarterbacks.
Yep.
And again, Howard, we've said this a lot during the course of the last couple of weeks, but it's oh so true. No matter how much you study the playbook and no matter how much virtual learning you did, until you're out on the field catching passes from your quarterbacks, you will never develop the chemistry that's necessary in a game.
Game chemistry is just different. Like I said, we try to practice at the highest level we always can because we want to get to the game. For me, it was great. I had Carl Banks and LT for a lot of early in my career. I had Derek Thomas, Cornelius Bennett in college. So me practicing hard against two of the best in college, and then me practicing hard against two of the best in the NFL made the guys that I played against, they were at a disadvantage. Because if LT wanted to get after you in practice, he'd get after you. If Carl Banks wanted to get after you in practice, he's getting after you. And I played at a high pace, they played at a high pace. So you try to get these guys to go more and more, try to pick their feet up, keep going, because you can't go from jogging or striding to sprinting with people touching you and have your rhythm and your timing.
The quarterback's also throwing a lot here to the running backs as well. Now we're going back to Evan Engram. Now let me ask you this, Howard. There have been a lot of people who've also said, well, do you have to keep a fullback on the roster because a lot of times these tight ends serve as H-backs or they can play some fullback. What is your thought on that? Should the Giants, consider one of these tight ends as a potential pseudo fullback? Or do you think there's going to be a propensity to want to keep a real fullback on the roster like Elijah Penny?
Well, I will say that I noticed running backs mostly today like a lead blocker. If he came from a lead blocker system, they're great. If they came from a spread open system, then they're great with no fullback. So it determines of your offense is, how much of a utility guy this is going to be. But you want your fullback to be so big and strong that if you need him to slide out and be that flood position guy on the double tight end, he could do that. If he's going to be on the inside, he can do that as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things I think that we're really excited about coming up later on this week after a few more padded practices, on Friday there will be another full scrimmage, the second one of training camp at Giant Stadium. That one will be a little bit more live, like game action. And Howard, I can't think of anything else better as this team continues to try to prepare for the season.
You got like levels that you're going through and things you're trying to achieve. They're going to have basically by that time 2 full weeks of practice. They'll install almost their entire offense and their entire defense. And now they want to see if the coaches coordinate themselves to call the plays and not just be on the field standing beside the guys. They want guys in the booth looking down. They want the defensive guys in the booth looking down. It's going to help them coordinate. It's a first-year coaching staff. They got to see how all of their, minutiae is going to work together too. They're not just the players trying to get it together. The coaches have to be calm and understanding as well.
Howard, very good to see you again.
It's great to see you as well.
Fans, remember, keep it tuned to Giants.com and the Giants' entire social media network for all your latest Giants coverage. For Inside Look at Training Camp presented by Quest Diagnostics, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next time.